Prime Minister is on his second full day in China. Tonight, he's meeting the Chinese President Xi Jinping. President Xi has been critical in the past of the Orcus Pact between Australia, Britain and the United States. While Anthony Albanese is in Beijing, one of the key figures of Orcus is here in Australia. Admiral Sir Key is the first Sea Lord of the British Navy. He's had plenty to say about the importance of the partnership and the global focus on the Indo-Pacific region. Admiral Key joined me a short time ago from aboard HMAS Tamar in Sydney. In the first part of our interview, I asked for his view on China's aggression and assertiveness in the South China Sea.
So I noticed with interest Prime Minister Albanese's comments this morning on arrival in Beijing when he referred to the fact that he wanted a constructive relationship with China where they can, and then to be confident in disagreeing with them where that was in the national interest. And I would look at what's going on in the South China Sea and China's behaviours there as being something where we should confidently disagree with them. We have established over time a clear rules-based international system that underpins, through the United Nations Convention for Law on the Sea, how nations can operate on the high seas. And we do not necessarily agree with the lines that all nations in the areas take, but what we're pretty clear is that those high seas should be open for the free and fair trade of everybody. And at times that is now being contested. So I would encourage people to engage in an open dialogue and respect the right of all nations and all seafarers to operate on the high seas in an open and independent fashion.
Now, Admiral Key, we've seen a huge naval buildup from China, increasing their capacity enormously in recent years. What sort of challenge does that pose for the Indo-Pacific into the future?
I watch with interest to see that China has kind of understood that the importance of the maritime for them, and how the ability to trade at sea is a shared key criteria for all maritime-facing nations. And we want to do that on safe and secure seas. So if China's intent is to ensure that seafarers can underpin the free flow of commerce, the safe exchange of trade and information and data cables and all the rest of it, then I'm entirely comfortable. Where I struggle with it, and I think it's the same for all of us, and we talk about this, is where people start to challenge the sense of safe and secure and open seas for us all. It's really clear that, you know, in the United Nations Convention on Law of the Sea, about what the high seas are. 70% of the ocean, 70% of the Earth's surface is covered by oceans. What's not always appreciated is that 90% of those oceans are actually the high seas open to us all. And providing people can trade fairly safely and securely in a fair and transparent manner and go about our lawful business, then I'm comfortable with it. But I would encourage China to recognise the rules-based international system to which we all comply with, and on that basis we can have constructive relationships. That's what we in the United Kingdom would wish with China, and as you started off your interview just now, it is where Prime Minister Albanese is also very clear.
You said in recent weeks in Washington, this is a quote from you, you said there are some in the United Kingdom who, you know, offer a view that actually we're a Euro-Atlantic country and that's where we should focus. What do you say, Admiral Key, to those in your nation who would say, what is the focus and the responsibility of the Royal Navy in the Indo-Pacific?
So the Indo-Pacific region, Southeast Asia, is, you know, the fastest growing economic part of the world. And over the next few years, that rate of growth will only accelerate. And in this globally connected modern times, the United Kingdom has trade interests, diplomatic interests, economic interests in this part of the world. And so it's incumbent upon us, therefore, to play our part in delivering, as a Navy, in delivering the security in the Indo-Pacific. I make no claim, and I made no claim in that previous interview, that this was for us to lead. These are not our backwaters. We are a Euro-Atlantic based island by straight geography. But such are the dependencies that we have here as a nation. That brings with it responsibilities and obligations to take our part in delivering the safe and secure seas that we were talking about earlier. And so it's not a question of either or. It's a question of both and. We have to deliver safe and security in the Euro-Atlantic area. We are very clear in our national policy that NATO is the cornerstone of our defence approach, and I don't see any version of that changing in the future. But we can't be isolationist. We are part of a global community, a globally structured economy, and the high seas are connected around the world. And so as a Navy, I see it as an entirely natural thing for us to be playing a part in this region, in the Indo-Pacific, as much as it is that we have significant obligations in the Euro-Atlantic.
You've called Orcus a real strategic game changer. Can I ask you the broader question, and those that doubt Orcus, can this be achieved given the industrial and political limitations in each of the three nations involved?
I sometimes wonder, amongst those who are critical of what we're trying to achieve with the Orcus agreement, where their sense of ambition has gone. The really big things, the big significant changes that make an enduring difference can look very difficult when you embark upon them. But my goodness me, they're worthwhile. And I am absolutely committed to the Orcus journey. Alongside my fellow naval chiefs, the recently confirmed Admiral Lisa Franchetti, and obviously Vice Admiral Mark Hammond, Chief of Navy here in Australia, we believe that this is something that can be done. Will it be quick? No. This is a real step change for the Australian Navy in moving from conventionally powered submarines to nuclear-powered submarines under the Pillar 1. And clearly Pillar 2, part of Orcus, is going to explore a wide range of new, novel and potentially battle-winning capabilities. But to set out from the outset that it all feels a bit too difficult and it can't be achieved almost then becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Whereas I prefer to look at this as something in the strategic timescales that we're talking about will lead to huge betterment. Is that going to be easy? No, of course not. But actually our own journey when we moved into a nuclear propulsion submarine force back in the 1950s and 60s was equally demanding. The United States was very supportive of that, and we now feel that same obligation, both the United States and us in the UK, to help the Australians develop this capability. And in return, of course, through the ambition for the SSN-A class of submarine that we will both operate in the future, we grow a international partnership that I see just bringing us capability advantage into the future. So it's going to be a stretch. We shouldn't be surprised by that. This is a really big shift. But is it worthwhile and is it achievable? Absolutely, if we all commit to it. And I am very clear that I and the Royal Navy are committed to it, along with the broader United Kingdom nuclear endeavour.
You mentioned the SSN Orcus attack submarines. That's going to be the second phase when Australia and the UK together will build those submarines. It's the early phase, as you've alluded to, but how is it shaping up?
So I think the initial work has been really positive. I think we need to reflect that helping us all understand what these implications are has been difficult, and at times it's required us actually to have some really frank and transparent conversations with each other. But those are now taking place in a really productive and collegiate environment, and I'm hugely encouraged by it. Clearly, the first step is looking ahead towards the Virginia class, initially alongside one of our Astute boats later in the decade, operating probably from Fleet Base West, and then moving to the Australian Navy operating Virginia class of their own. And there is now, I think, a real sense of momentum. The policy work is well underway, and in a number of areas is frankly done. And now we're into the detailed active delivery. and it's going to take time. But I'm confident that we will see a series of milestones being achieved over the next few years, which will underpin the sense of growing momentum that Vice Admiral Mark Hammond, Admiral Lisa Franchetti, all feel is really now growing within our respective navies.